At least 7 people have been killed and nearly 100 injured in a Russian missile attack on the city of Chernihiv. Officials said a theatre on the main square was targeted. Video from the scene shows glass and debris blown across nearby streets, as well as a number of bodies. President Zelensky posted online urging the world to stand up to what he called Russian terror. Chernihiv is close to the border with Belarus. Well, in the past hour, President Zelensky has been meeting with the Swedish Prime Minister of Kristersson in Sweden. He gave an update on the situation in Chernihiv.
Our bright city of Chernihiv. This morning, Russia launched missiles on the city, at the very centre of it, where the National Drama Theatre is located, as well as many residential homes. There were many people in the theatre at the time. There were many people at home too. More than 90 people were injured, 12 children among them. They were just taking a walk on the central square with their parents. Among the dead, a 6-year-old child, whose mother is seriously injured and is in intensive care. My condolences to those who lost their loved ones in this Russian, obviously terrorist attack.
Well, let's cross live to the BBC Newsroom and the BBC's Europe regional editor, Paul Moss, who is monitoring the developments coming out of Ukraine. Paul, what more do we know about what happened?
Well, we know that the missile landed at about 11:30 local time, hitting, yes, the central square in Chernihiv, where there is a theatre, which it seems was very badly damaged. There's also a university building. It seems hopefully that building was not occupied because it was a Saturday morning. And there were also reports that people were queuing for church and that many of those were among those who were the casualties of this attack. I have to say that the number of injuries is going up all the time. The latest we've heard now from the Interior Minister in Ukraine is that it's 110 people injured, with some of them very seriously injured. We heard about a 12-year-old girl who was so badly injured they couldn't treat her in Chernihiv, and she's been racing in an ambulance towards Kiev. There was also, as you mentioned, a 6-year-old child amongst those who were killed. Descriptions of bodies lying around, and we do think it was a ballistic missile that caused this attack. That's what we've heard from the regional governor. In other words, not shelling and not a drone attack.
Is there any indication, Paul, as to why the city was targeted?
Well, we do have some idea, but I want to stress this is very much speculation. A BBC reporter who's arrived on the scene has been told that there was an exhibition going on of drones and that senior military figures, senior Ukrainian military figures, were among the guests. Now, I want to stress we're not sure of that, and we don't know if that's why Russia chose to target Chernihiv at this time. Russia, of course, likes to claim that it only targets military people. It says it never deliberately targets civilians, despite the huge number of civilians who've been killed since Russia attacked Ukraine.
Paul Moss, for the moment, thank you so much. Well, the Russian President Putin has paid a visit to Rostov-on-Don, the city which has become the headquarters for its military offensive in Ukraine. Video footage showed him arriving at night and being greeted by the country's military chief. It's the first time Mr. Putin's been to Rostov since it was briefly the site of that mutiny by the mercenaries from the Wagner Group. A statement from the Kremlin said only that he'd heard reports from Mr. Gerasimov of the progress on what it refers to as the special operation in Ukraine. Well, let's stay with Ukraine now, because Kiev has welcomed the White House's decision to allow both Denmark and the Netherlands to send American-built fighter jets to Ukraine. They'll be delivered once Ukrainian pilots have finished their training to fly them. The US and its allies had previously ruled out providing F-16s to Ukraine, fearing it would lead to further escalation with a nuclear-armed Russia. Ukraine is believed to have dozens of combat aircraft, but mostly MiGs, all dating from the Soviet era, and the country is currently badly outgunned by Russia in the air. Well, let's cross now to Kharkiv and Dan Saber, the Guardian newspaper's defence editor there. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Ukraine has been pushing for these F-16s for a long time. America's finally given the green light. This feels like a significant moment.
Well, it's a significant moment. It's also been a very long time coming. I think Ukraine's wanted, frankly, to be able to match Russia's dominance in the air from the beginning of the war. You know, Russia's got a far larger and a far more capable air force. It hasn't actually used it very much, despite endless bombing of Ukrainian cities. It's generally done so from from a distance. But Ukraine needs fighter jets in order to really match that. And when the West seeks to go to war, what the West wants is would expect to have air power to be able to bomb enemy positions and be able to make it much safer for ground troops to operate. Ukraine's not had that, and that's made it very difficult. Ukraine's now had a lot of Western weapons of other kinds, artillery, tanks and so forth. But one of the reasons you see this World War I style